This is David Catton, the head trainer of the Xtreme Wrestling Center, and today on the XWC stream, we're going to talk about some very interesting topics. One being what managers do, why we train them. Number two, referees and why they're important. And we're also going to touch up on some other things that we talk about around the center. We're going to talk about how we're a family. We're going to talk about how we're a unit. And we're going to talk about how just inviting the center should be, and hopefully you choose to come down and see us. So here's my co-host, my other trainer at the center, one of the founders, Adam Howe.
And how are we doing today? We've got a couple of good things to get started on, so I think we should dive right into it. Where do we want to start off with first base here?
All right. So the first thing that I want to touch base on is I want to talk about our training and how we offer 3 different courses.
Mm-hmm.
We offer, obviously, the professional wrestling training, and that's divided up into several different qualifiers. We have several different styles that we teach. We have several different experience levels that we teach, obviously. So, there's a plethora of things that we teach when it comes to wrestlers.
Yeah, you're not walking into just, here's your 6-week course, you're going to do this. At the end of it, you got what you got, good luck, kid, off you go.
Right.
We're there for people who are just starting off, who don't know what really the ins and outs of professional wrestling actually are. We're here for people who have been wrestling for 25 years and just want a place that they can work on the regular. We're here for somebody who's just kind of plateaued after several years and is trying to figure out really what it is that's keeping them from kind of hitting that next stride and going on to that next level. We're here to kind of help them make the tweaks and the adjustments that they need. So we're not just kind of the one-trick pony that just runs you through your DeVry course real quick and sends you on your way.
Right, and I think that our students appreciate that, the ones that take the course. So the first thing I really want to touch base on is managers, or seconds, secondary crew people. One of the things about being a manager or secondary crew person is that, let's just talk about the negative right off the bat.
The elephant in the room, if you were.
Let's just go ahead.
Or not in the room, for the irony of it.
Right. Thank goodness. This room's pretty small.
No kidding.
They're not getting used in other promotions.
It's almost kind of on a large scale, unless you've got the capital to spend on having that extra person out there. There's a lot of people that are just finding ways to forego it and saying, as the wrestler, you have to be the total package. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to wrestle. You have to be able to do all of this.
Right.
Whereas, you go back and you look at the territory days, there were a lot of fantastic wrestlers that talking wasn't their strong game. Figuring out how to get from town to town and setting up those things. Andre wasn't setting up what towns he was going to next and things like that. You had those guys there to help them out, to make sure all they had to focus on was the wrestling. And so that's one of kind of the lost arts, I think, of having a manager and having a second, is having somebody handle the business of wrestling so you can focus on handling the wrestling of wrestling.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the main things that are lost when it comes to managers and seconds. I think that managers nowadays, they absolutely have to have some charisma and something that they can add to the screen. That's what makes them a manager. That's what makes them a vital role to these other wrestlers when it comes to an on-screen personality, is that they have someone there to help them with whatever their crutch is, whether it be a verbal skill, whether it be emoting, whether it be just putting together a good match. A manager doesn't always need to be able to just talk for you. They should be able to help you put together better matches. Michael P.S. Hayes helped the Hardy Boys quite a bit. He wasn't just a good talker for them to help them get started. He was really helping with gimmick. He was helping with putting matches together, psychology, and that's very vital. But let's bring up, again, part of that elephant in the room, is that managers back in the day, they were either really old workers that couldn't bump anymore, or an injury took this person out of the game, so they had to become now a second or a manager.
Yeah, a lot of the names that come up right offhand, you were talking about classic Freddie Blassie, Michael P.S. Hayes, Bobby Heenan, Colonel Parker. These are guys that all had some experience already in the ring, and heyday may be gone, but there's a way that I can still contribute. And they were helping a lot of these young guys in those eras. Hey, this is what you need to make sure you're focusing on.
Right, 100%. So people will ask, well, why would we want to book someone who just went through a wrestling school who's trying to become this in our company? Why would we want to pay for someone who doesn't have that experience that, you know, normally that it was a natural fit, it was a natural progression to move into that place.
Yes.
One of the things that I think that makes us better and sets our guys apart is the fact that you were saying we're teaching them the business side of things. We are teaching them psychology of matches. We're teaching them how and what to look for on what our principles of what a good match is and what a bad match is. We teach them the importance of how to go into a room and utilize yourself not only with the workers that are there, but the promoters, the camera people, the freaking catering people. You're trying to find a position to make yourself better backstage, and you're also trying to help the company as a whole.
Yes.
And by doing that and by utilizing yourself and filling up these holes, you're going to learn at a quicker pace than just in-ring things. You're going to learn a lot of backstage things that will help utilize you in a much better.
More tools in the toolbox.
Absolutely.
And the more tools you have, the better, I mean, the better of a workman you can be and the more valuable of a hand you can be to any promoter, because the more things you can do for him, the less he has to have more people to do those roles.
100%. Now, whenever you do come into our school and you say, hey, I want to be a manager.
You put on your hat.
Right. You aren't going to be just set off to the side and I'm going to start teaching you promo skills and I'm going to start teaching you character basics and all that ring psychology and spots and all this and that. I'm not going to do that. The first thing I'm going to have you do is you're going to go your first month and you're going to do exactly what everyone else does, and that includes referees and that includes workers. Anyone that wants to get into the business, you're going to get in the ring with everyone else.
I mean, to a certain extent, I don't think you can help with the outside of the business if you don't know a little bit about the inside, especially when it comes to, you know, being a manager. There's going to be times where workers are going to want to bump you, and you have to make sure that you can do that. There are certain situations where, you know, if we take like Bill Alfonso in ECW, you're a manager, and you were a referee, but there may be a reason, there may be a time that they have to put you in the ring for some reason. You have to be able to run yourself through a basic match. So not only do we teach you the outside concept of it, we make sure that you can physically run through a basic match as well, because that's something that you're going to need to be able to do in some capacity, possibly at some point. So you need to, again, have that tool in your toolbox.
Absolutely. And we teach you to surround yourself with knowledgeable people and not just yes men. We teach you not to be just a freaking bootlicker. We ask you, or we teach you, you know, these are our core principles. These are the values that we have, and what we teach to our workers is working.
Yes.
What we teach to our wrestlers, it's obviously paying off. Everywhere that they go, every time a promoter emails me, messages me, calls me, and they're like, man, your guys are just so good. They do exactly what they need to do. They're right here. They're right there. They're progressing at such a faster rate than the other guys. That is something that managers also learn by tagging along on the road trips, by being backstage and hearing what's going on, by listening to the matches on how they're being planned, by being right out there with the action. And if they're smart and they're really putting in the work, they're taking their notes. They're in there making sure that they're retaining the knowledge, and they're not just surrounding themselves with a bunch of people who are going, oh, you really put me over. Oh, you're one of the best mouthpieces I've ever seen. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, we can't have that.
No, you gotta be able to hear the honesty and how you can improve, and you need to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that'll be making you improve rather than, you know, just tugging you along for the ride, if you will.
Absolutely. Jim Cornette started off good, but the people he surrounded himself made him great.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be the same principle with a lot of other people who choose to be seconds. And if you come in and you think, oh, well, you know, And most of the time when people, they want to be managers, they want to come in and they want to be the heel. They want to be able to tell the audience, oh, you're assholes, and nothing will happen to them. They think, oh, because it's all a stage play and this and that.
I'll say the magic words and the magic thing will happen on the screen because the sign lights up to tell them what to do. It's not quite that simple. And, you know, you mentioned they want to come in and be the heel. They want to come in and be what they think a heel is.
Correct.
And a lot of this teaching is teaching people what they assume these roles are aren't quite what they think it is. And having to guide them into that correct direction.
Absolutely. I believe that the job of a good heel is what can you do to get the face over? How can you get him over? It's not to be cool. It's what are you doing to make sure that your face is looking cooler and better than you? What are you doing to make sure that the audience wants him to win? Not how much can you make the audience hate you? I mean, congratulations, you made them hate you. Yeah, that can pack in some places. Fantastic. But
it's not staying.
Right. If you can get the other person over while you're getting yourself over, that's a win. Just like the faces should be helping the heels get over. But realistically, if you have a more over face than you do a heel, you win.
I mean,
you absolutely win.
I mean, that's the formula to pretty much any movie you see out there. You don't see a movie built and about... I mean, I don't want to say you don't see any movie, because you can look at the horror genre and they do their own thing, because you build an entire franchise off of the heel, depending on how you look at it from a certain point of view. But for the most part, when you're looking at, you know, your basic stories, your Disney stories, your normal action movie, you can't build it so much around that bad guy. You build it around the good guy and the different bad guys he comes across as that time goes along. And so your ability to enhance good guys as a heel is what makes you stay and what gives you that longevity, rather than your ability to be a snarky jerk.
Right, correct. And, I mean, let's be honest, most seconds are used to help a lot of workers get over verbally.
Yes.
So, I mean, it does help. And we do teach a lot of promo character building classes. We make sure that you go through the gambit of emotions. We make sure that you can cut an envious promo. We make sure that you can cut a celebratory promo. We make sure that you can cut a happy promo, an ecstatic promo. I mean, what is the difference in that gambit? We make sure that you can cut the upset, not just the sad, not just the angry, but the gambit in between. Again,
the grays. You can't just go all the way to one extreme, all the way to the other, and expect it to get expect it to really get a reaction that's genuine. You have to be able to kind of meet people in a reasonable place in the middle. That again, it to them, this feels like something I can relate to.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now that we've talked about the elephant in the room and the things that we teach to make it better, I think that it's important that when people come in and they realize, hey, I want to be a manager and I want to add to a show, they need to have it in their mind, especially when coming to a wrestling school about it, which there's not a lot of schools that will teach this craft. They need to make sure that they have a business-oriented mind and not just a self-centered, narcissistic, egotistical mind of how do I get myself on camera and call everyone a bunch of dicks? How do I call everyone a bunch of jerks and not get punched in the face?
Jimmy Hart got all of his time on WrestleMania not by getting one guy to show up 90 times on WrestleMania, but by being able to manage a slew of different characters and being able to adapt himself to each of those so that he fit with each one, rather than him being the sore thumb that sticks out amongst all these different characters.
Absolutely, and he also made himself very vital backstage.
True.
He made himself a vital tool to a lot of those workers.
From his music experience, he was the guy helping them book a lot of the tours, figure out the ins and outs of getting wrestlers booked in hotels, making sure people had places to stay, had rental cars.
Absolutely, and professional workers, I mean, they go around and they obviously learn how to do this themselves, but if they can have someone help them take care of it, I mean, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's obviously going to help everyone in the long run. If you can find someone to watch your back in this business and truly watch your back, like you said, not in a yes man sort of way, but hey, we could have done this better. Hey, you did fantastic on this. That's a win all around. Unfortunately, a lot of our managers, whenever they go through our process, it's a much harder process to make it into the business as a manager.
Just, again, for a lot of promoters, it's an extra mouth to feed, an extra hand out there. And a lot of promoters nowadays that you run into may not see the value that a manager brings right at, first glance. So it becomes, the burden becomes for the manager to prove their worth before they're able to get out there and show their primary craft, if you will.
Absolutely. The thing about a manager is that his work shouldn't stop once the bell rings. His work is truly just starting.
I mean, honestly, the vast majority of a manager's work, if you're taking the role of a manager seriously and you're managing the business of the people that you choose to help out and work alongside of, the bulk of your work's going to be happening in between those bell times. Kind of you are the Monday to Friday of the wrestling business in a sense.
Absolutely. So, a tip for anyone that wants to come in and they want to try out for a manager position, I do believe that there is value in that position, because there are companies that I go to and they have their one manager that they've got working, and he works a couple different guys. Most of the time you can find a home promotion to go to and really get yourself out there if you can show your value and you can really show your worth. There are managers that are still continuing to be used that have graduated our program, and there are managers, like I said earlier, unfortunately they got burnt out. It was too hard of a grind for them. But thankfully, we have a very successful manager that is very happy with his course in the professional wrestling business. So I feel like if you hear it straight from his voice directly, that you can, hear it and feel for yourself if this is the right place for you, if this is the right course of action for you to take. So if we can cue it up, I think I have Guff ready.
Yeah.
And let's hear from Guff.
Feel like us, like the Guff P. Doug Demino, come down to Xtreme Wrestling Center in Raytown, Missouri, and just be like us, make your dreams happen, and we'll push you and we'll make you famous.
We're on.
So, Guff, Doug Dimmadome.
Hey, man. Sometimes you don't need to give an entire soliloquy to get your point across. Sometimes a few concise words are all you need.
Exactly. And that's what we teach. You don't have to have monologues ready. You don't have to sit there and give away the entire plan to James Bond. Not at all.
No.
You just give them the point. Hey, I'm blowing this place up. Here's the laser. Dunzo. Awesome. So, again, Guff, very happy with his promotions that he's working. He's working a couple different local promotions here in the Kansas City area. Obviously, keeps getting used all over. Very happy with the workers that he works with. He's very eager when he comes into every promotion, shakes every hand, makes sure that he jumps on any job that you ask him to do. I don't mean to push him out to everyone, but if you can book Guff, book him.
If you want a guy that gives you 250% pretty much anytime you ask anything of him, that's Guff to a nutshell. So
Absolutely. So let's move on to the second topic.
All right.
That I wanted to talk about. Referees, right? Our third class that we teach down at the center are really more successful classes that we teach down at the center for people who really commit to the craft. Being that third person in the ring. Being
and
a
not
referee.
necessarily wanting to get your back destroyed every single night.
Oh, man. Tell me about it. Being a good referee. Being able to be that third person in the ring, be able to have your moment to shine and have your moment to shut up. Have your moment to where you need to pull through when the story asks for. You need to be able to help keep timing. You're that center to the back. You're that middle piece in between the back and the guys. You have to run so much in that ring while also staying the hell out of the way.
There are so many things that you have to be absolutely on top of and that you have to notice, while at the same time being almost virtually unnoticeable in what you do. The best referee work is when the crowd almost doesn't realize it was even happening at that point.
which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look over here, here's the magic.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of the training that we require for referees. Again, just like our managers, our seconds, a referee is also, in my mind, considered a second as well.
Yeah.
In my mind, they need to also have backstage vital things to do, as well as being able to perform in the ring.
I would say a lot of times, especially in that backstage role, your referees are going to be a lot more active in that regard. You're going to be the guy a lot of times kind of going in between the booker and the wrestlers. All right, you know, you've got the finish. What do you guys have set up? And then you start kind of getting that kind of thing put together. A lot of times, if the promoter's needing something done, the easiest hand that he can get to get things done is going to be that referee, because you're right there waiting for it. And so, as a referee, you're kind of, it's almost like being the grip or the gopher on set. You don't have a specific job title, but you're going to be the guy that can do just about any job if the call arises for it. You know, just the times that I've gone out and refereed, it's been so much as, you know, running things back and forth between the workers, doing cleanup in between matches with the ring when things go awry, running buckets to the leaking spots of the building to make sure that we're not causing a water hazard in the back. I mean, you name it, you're going to find it. You're going to do it at some point as a referee. So being that man that can almost being ready to do what's needed as a referee is almost just as paramount to what you can do inside the ring for the 3-4 matches that you're in there.
So whenever people come in, we also teach the in-ring as well. We make sure that referees understand running the ropes.
Yep.
Just like managers need to understand running the ropes. They need to understand bumping. They need to respect bumping. They need to respect the whole motion. If
you don't understand the hold, how can you call the hold? I mean, that's kind of the philosophy that we look at it with. And so in order to properly call a match as a referee, you have to know what you're looking at. So when you need to make the calls that you do, you can see that from a mile away instead of stuck as the deer in the headlights and having to basically being led by the hand through almost everything. Sometimes the referee is kind of the forgotten position to some promoters, and becomes throw a t-shirt on that kid and send him out there. And that's the kind of thing that can make or break a match a lot of times.
Oh, absolutely. If the referee's not in the right position, doesn't count the 3 properly, doesn't...
Pulls that count.
Absolutely. Doesn't make a count while the guys are in the corner forever. Doesn't notice the DQ. Or if a guy's a shoot referee and he's literally looking for everything. But again, some of those guys are my favorite guys to work. I love, if you're a good worker,
keep you on your toes.
You can get those shoot referees to look here, and then I did my thing over here, and they didn't know a thing. That's
and they love it that much more because they.
Oh no, they hated me for it. I did this one match in a tag match, and we did the XWC tag spot. Do bow, knee happens, and then after the knee, I told Dan, I'm like, don't take the fall. I'm gonna give you a doopity-doo low blow, and then pop you down. So then the referee at the end of it, he's like, I could have DQ'd you when your opponent kneed the other guy in the back on the apron. I'm like, yeah, you could have. But what'd you do? You counted after I did this thing, didn't you? After you saw this DDT, huh? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, you couldn't go back to the DQ, could you? No. I'm like, you didn't notice the low blow, did you? What? Nothing.
Doop, 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 doop.
And by being able to do something like that,
the fans get a nice little treat that maybe that stickler that's always gotten everybody, he misses out on that moment. You get that extra little bit. And then you found a way to connect with that audience because they know that referee.
Absolutely. And he is a shoot referee. This guy was very... In the back, he's really cool. You know, he understands the work, but he's like, you make me look stupid. I'm
going to let you know. Yeah.
And quick with his counts, fucking quick with everything, making sure that pins were really freaking flat. And again, that's fine. I don't mind real flat pins. That's all good.
Just keeping you on your toes, keeping you clean.
100%. You just have to be a better worker.
Yep.
You just really have to make sure you know what you're doing. You can't
start separating wheat and chaff with something like that sometimes.
Absolutely.
There are people who absolutely get frozen when they get stuck with a shoot referee like that because They're used to the guy just kind of going along with everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little philosophy on what XWC teaches, because there are things that I think are super important, and there are things that other workers are going to be like, no, that's garbage. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the XWC philosophy. And I want to put it out there that it's flavors of ice cream.
Oh, absolutely.
Wrestling is wrestling. Some referees want it to be more this way. Some referees want it to be more this way. Some workers, while they're in there, they have their gimmicky stuff. And if a referee doesn't count the gimmicky thing, then
it ruins the whole business.
The whole thing. Oh, why didn't you count the 3? They've totally ruined it. We had this great thing. The audience was on their toes. You should have counted the 3, when the guy was obviously just on one shoulder and the pin wasn't even on the chest, and like it was totally a sloppy pin. The way that I believe is that you have to give this sport respect.
Mm-hmm. The easiest way to look at it, as much as people know the work of the sport, the job of the referee is to keep it as legitimate as possible.
That is their job.
Mm-hmm. You are there to give it that legitimacy. You are there to give that match that credibility. But if you take it back to the territory days, referees had to be sanctioned by the state. So you had that automatic air of credibility. No, this is a Missouri licensed competitive referee watching this match. He's not going to risk his license over something shady.
Right, absolutely. And there's one thing that brings legitimacy back into businesses with licenses. But again, I want our referees, our managers, and our wrestlers to understand where this business came from.
Yes.
And I want them to know that it came from a shoot that turned into a work. It was not a stunt show that was put in front of an audience.
No.
It was not a staged fight that was put up in front of an audience. It came from a shoot. So our job, our hook, is to be able to get at least everyone in that audience to believe just one moment in the show. They don't have to believe the whole show.
Not at all.
They can say 90% of it freaking fake, but if they're like, that is real. That.
They got hot at each other back there in that match. They were really throwing.
Right.
For just that moment, they were really throwing.
Right. So here's the job of the referee. You have a referee out there, and you have the invisible grenade spot, right? You have the freaking the slow motion or the pause spot. The referee can sell it. The referee can be a part of that moment, and suddenly now the whole match goes into this moment of suspended disbelief. And
immersion settles in.
Correct. Or the audience, or the referee could be like, what is this hokey nonsense? And it can sell the moment as a totally different moment. 110%.
As the wrestlers give it their 100% all, and the referee's stuck trying to figure out exactly what's going on in front of him, you get an entirely different story there if everybody's willing to play it right.
Exactly. So it's up to the workers, and it's up to the referee to decide on how they want to do the moment. But our core training, I want everyone to understand that this is a sport. So I make sure that our refs make sure that the shoulders are down. I make sure that our refs are in there with a steady cadence on the counts. I make sure that our referees are not shooting for the DQ, obviously. They're not shoot refs. They're going to play the game.
Yes.
100%. But they're not going to go into an area to where it makes them or you look bad.
No, I'm not, as a referee, I'm not going to allow you to throw the entire rule book out the window. I'm going to give you the time that you need to do what you need to do.
So let's talk about this. One of my students, or our students, went to a show, and again, they had this real doopity-doop-doop-doo moment where it was a tag match. Guy does his hokey finish, boop, 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 boo, and goes for the pin. Our referee doesn't count it. He's like, nope, that's not a good pin. Guy fixes it, boom, 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 pow, boom, 1, 2, 3.
Locks it in.
Oh, locks that pin in. After he locks the pin in, they go to the back. Our worker gets blasted. I mean, blasted in front of everyone. And I mean, really degraded. Let me ask you, Is our ref in the wrong, or is our teaching in the wrong, or is it a misunderstanding?
I do not think that our teaching is in the wrong in that point. Because there's going to be those fans, especially in the front, the guys that love to call every blown punch or anything like that. They'll be the first ones to yell, that guy's shoulder was never down, blah, blah, blah. And they'll post it up on the internet, and they'll get their 5 people to like it, and they'll make their noise. And the more you as a ref secure a good pin, you know, there's things you could correct there for sure to kind of help each other out there. I think I think it's definitely a misunderstanding thing. Could you? I haven't seen the video of it, but a lot of times the pin can be adjusted without having to be completely reset in order to get what you need in order to get a solid pin and get a good 3 count on it. So, you know, I think there was a little bit extra that was done maybe to make a point on somebody's end, at least the way it's.
I haven't seen the video either, so I don't know if it was like a 1-2 and then he pulled it, or if he was just like, no, this ain't a pin. So I wasn't there. I was just told that there was a hokey finish. Our guy goes in the back and he gets paraded, and I was told that the finish was one of those gimmicky finishes that, I mean, it's real gimmicky, but
there's
it is what it is.
There's an audience for that. And
Correct.
You've got to be willing to play along with that to an extent too.
And so you go out and you do referee work. You go out and you get, you know, paid quite a bit to do your referee work. If Honky Tonk Man or, I mean, any main eventer tells you, and this is a main eventer, and he says, hey, this is my finish. This is the finish. Count it. Let's say the shoulders weren't down. Are you counting it?
If I was told this is the finish, I'm counting it. If
that's what happened to our student, is he was told this is the finish. And he decided, for whatever reason, again, I haven't seen the video. But he decided, hey, no.
Discretion can be the better part of valor, and learning when to use that discretion can, I think, be the other part of that valor. It's good to be able to say as the referee, no, that's not a clean pin, I don't want to count it. I think the moment and the meaning and the message you're sending in that moment can matter too. If we're on the apex of the match and I'm wanting to make a point about a pin, I'm risking the flow of the match. I'm risking the flow of the show. I'm risking, I'm risking a little bit too much to try and make my 1 point. Whereas that's something that, you know, if you're in the middle of the match and you're just going through and that guy doesn't have a clean pin, that's one thing. If we're at the point that we're trying to tie the story up and we know what's coming, it almost feels like a pulled count to me, in that you've let the air out of the balloon when you didn't need to.
I can understand that. So, when it comes to a finish, you feel like once it's called, you should hit that, but be ready to adjust on the fly if necessary.
A little bit, yeah. Me, on a personal note, I'm in kind of the minority of referees that I will not ask for finishes, and I try not to hear them. Because, again, we run under the philosophy of treat it like a shoot, ref it like a shoot. So, if I don't know what the finish is, every single pin can potentially be the finish. Treat it like it. Go in with the same count, go in with the same cadence, go in looking for the 3 every single time. Keep those wrestlers on their toes. Now, I'm not going to try and sneak it by them. I'm not going to be silent or quiet or anything like that. You can hear my count from a mile away. And even, you know, in most recent times, I go out and I ref, and I'll wear a mask the entire time I'm reffing just because of the world we live in right now. And I make sure that you can hear me plain clear as day through those extra 3 layers of cloth, because my goal as the referee is to make sure that this match moves the way it's supposed to. You know, again, you brought it up. They have to be the timekeepers. They have to be the liaisons, kind of back to the promoter, the timekeeper, different things like that. So you have to be able to make sure that you can keep those parts managed and moving. So a lot of refs keep that time themselves. They don't trust I'm not saying that they don't trust the timekeeper, but the climber always ties his own knots, right? Same philosophy. So you're going to keep that time yourself so you can keep the wrestlers kind of on his toes. make sure that they're not going over and the show can keep going the way it needs to go.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to our training.
Mm-hmm.
And so we make sure our referees are able to go up, down. We make sure that they have their cardio. We make sure they respect the bump. We make sure that they understand the flow of a match. We make sure that referees understand psychology, so they know, hey, this should be close to the finish right here. I should be making sure that my counts are steady and good. We want to make sure that our referees know this is the shine, this is where the heat is. Hey, these are just falsies. But like you said, if you don't get that kick out, we're going to count the 3. We have to.
I mean, we had that happen on one of our shows, actually. I was the ref. This was back at the Alamo Draft House when we had that fantastic looking venue that we had there. We had 2 people coming in. In fact...
remember the Alamo.
Oh, yes. But I mean, it's, this is kind of a fun little story that we can tie into recent successes we talked about last week. Cameron's debut match, Brené's debut match. So she comes in, and the person that she's working with, we're about 2/3 of the way through the match. We're not quite there. Boom, bump gets hit. Brené goes down for the pin. 1, 2, shoulders don't come up. I count through to 3. Now there's the old adage in wrestling: you come in on your back, you go out on your back.
And she came in on top.
Because the person she was working forgot to kick out on a simple bump.
Oh my goodness.
And I had to sit there once we got back to the back and explain to the person why we didn't get to what they had planned, because they didn't make sure they did their basic steps. I had to save the credibility of the match in that moment, because if I pull it,
everyone's going to know it's a show.
And then at that point, none of the rest of what we're doing for the next 3 hours matters, and we might as well just pack it all up, say goodbye, and peace out at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Right, absolutely. And that's the way I believe that a wrestling show should be run. Everyone, again, understands it's sports entertainment, but I want
to make you forget for a second.
Just for a second.
It's the circus, man. Forget where you are for just a little bit and have fun in the universe. Have fun in the world you stepped into.
So when people come in and they say, I want to be a referee, I tell them cardio, make sure that your back and your knees are good, because there's going to be a lot of up and down, there's going to be a lot of circling, there's going to be a lot of ducking. You got to make sure you're out of the way, you got to make sure that you're loud, that you have a good cadence, that you have good timing.
So cardio, 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 cardio.
Absolutely.
Because you have to be loud and boisterous and authoritative, not just through one match, but likely through 2, 3, 4 matches. If you're one of the unfortunate poor souls that goes to a show and you look around and you realize you're the only referee, you're working 8, 9 matches that night. And you've got to be as loud for the main as you were the first.
Absolutely. And by having to do that, endurance, cardio, cardio, cardio.
Absolutely.
So I think the best thing to do now is let's pitch it to someone who's gone through our referee training, and then I want to talk about a success story with our referee training.
There we go.
We can move on to our next topic. So I want to move things on to KCXW's head referee, the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Jeremy Hilton.
Becoming a professional wrestler, maybe a manager, maybe a referee like myself. Come on down to the Xtreme Wrestling Center in Raytown, Missouri.
Jason.
So,
40 minutes.
All right.
So, there it is. Short and sweet, to the point.
Come on down, get started. That's all you need to know.
Oh, my goodness. Jeremy refs a lot of our matches down at KCXW. He most recently refereed Mike Bennett versus the Marksman. So Jeremy's got...
You can find that on our YouTube.
Absolutely. Jeremy's got some qualities that a lot of referees don't have that he really excels at, and that is a lot of the backstage areas. He really pushes things. He makes sure that he's available for everything. He goes out of his way to make sure that everything runs accordingly. And
how many times has he saved us just on audio hookup?
Oh my goodness, so many. Jeremy now has things so coordinated with our shows that he now runs which referee's going to do what match. He now sets all that up, and he makes sure that the referees understand their positions, and he understands exactly what we're looking for. By being able to coordinate and run that position That makes him almost invaluable right now.
I mean, being able to evolve into that senior referee position makes him very much kind of that key, because now, rather than having to go and parlay with all these referees and let them know what they've got to do, you've got your one man you can go to that you can trust to delegate out,
Absolutely.
kind of disperse out to the troops, if you will.
Absolutely, which is, again, very invaluable. And like you said, he's awesome at audio, he's awesome at tech, he's great at construction by being able to set up our curtain.
Again,
our
the more
entryway.
tools, as these secondary characters in wrestling, referees, managers, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more invaluable you're going to be to promoters, because you can't just do, or I'm sorry, it's not just that you can do the one thing. While you're not doing that one thing, there's 3 other projects that you're picking up to help out along the way.
Absolutely.
And you're making the promoter's life easier, which makes him a lot more likely to like you.
100%. So a success story that I want to move on to is Drew.
Yeah.
Drew. Right?
Pinky.
Hype Man Pinky. He went through our program as a secondary manager.
Yep.
And we used him quite a bit up until pretty much COVID hit. He was a KCXW staple, but he really was getting his name out there, traveling quite a bit with Juno, Jake, and started to make a name for himself, not only as a manager, but
He started becoming a very invaluable tool in other matches as a referee.
absolutely. And so by moving into the referee position, he eventually worked his way up through the ranks, and most recently he refereed a NWA World Title match at MLW.
Which, I mean, nothing to shake at, and that's a bucket list for a lot of people. There's a group of referees that all of us kind of stay in contact with each other through social media and kind of keep tabs and help each other out. And that's a bucket list for so many referees. Even today, even before Billy Corgan was bringing back things with NWA Power.
Which it is back.
Huzzah.
That's awesome.
But, even before NWA Power, that was still a bucket list for so many referees. I want to be able to lift that 10 pounds of gold. I want to be able to show that NWA World Title, boom, in my hands. And so that's an amazing achievement for Drew to be able to pull, after just a few short years.
Absolutely. Drew is an amazing talent. He will try to put himself in any situation and give it not only 110%, but 120%.
He's there not to only make himself look better, he's there to make the whole show look better. And that's such a positive on your roster. That's such a positive on, your crew helping out in the back. He's the guy that makes sure everybody's in good spirits there, not just your talent.
Absolutely. He's always an infectiously positive person backstage. I think that by having Drew be a part of anyone's roster, you're gaining, a real good talent, 110%. But by having that success story, again, it's another achievement for the center. It means that we're training people to do things the right way. It means that we are showing them how to be valuable. It shows them our philosophies matter.
Yeah. The more, we don't mention all these people, just say, ha ha, we trained them and they're up there and we're great because of it. The point is the things that we're teaching you are the things that people are looking for. And when we hear that there's new things people are looking for, we're agile enough that we can adapt and evolve to these new things and incorporate them into our philosophy to where it makes sense and it becomes those things that, they're looking for as well.
Absolutely. Being able to take criticism, learning from it, not just dwelling on it and being like, oh, that guy was a jerk and he made me upset and he made me boo-hoo a little bit.
And I do things the way I do and nobody's going to change that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, by being able to suck it up, by being able to apologize, by being able to say, hey, I see your flavor of ice cream and I will learn to adapt it the best I can. That's important. That is very important in our business. I used to think that my way was the only way and other people that worked their way were stupid. And after a lot of lumps, I learned that it's just a flavor of ice cream.
Yep. I mean, there's going to be a crowd for the super gimmicky things of, you know, the big characters of the 80s and your Duke. I mean, I'll admit, I'm a fan of the Duke the Dumpster Drozies and the things like that.
So is Triple H.
Mm-hmm. There are plenty of other people, yourself included, are like, get that hokey crap out of my face. But,
not the guy, but I hate occupational gimmicks.
Uh-huh.
Where's the lumberjack? Where's the plumber? Where's the cop? Where's the military guy?
They had them all.
I know. There was a hockey player. Why is a hockey player a wrestler? Shouldn't he be in hockey?
No, they were on strike.
Oh my goodness. Here we go.
But
every time a sport's on strike, I want to see actual professionals come in and do it, not a gimmicky hokey guy.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be good. But
I'm LeBron James, and I'm here because basketball's out of season, and I just want to keep my athleticism up.
I mean, that's what Pac-Man did when he got suspended. Adam Jones was like, "Oh, I can't play football. TNA sounds cool."
Oh man.
And so he spent a year wrestling.
Can't blame him.
Nope.
I heard a lot more about TNA when he was in there. I'll tell you that.
For every promotion that's out there, and they bring you the cops and the Mounties and the alligator wranglers and all that, you've got your very, very serious promotions that this is a sport. This is nothing but a sport. We're going to treat it that way. And so you have to be able to mesh through all these. And then, of course, you've got yours that are, no, we're two people trying to kill each other, and you're going to watch murder tonight. Simulated murder.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to, if you're going to be somebody who's versatile in the wrestling industry, you have to be able to adapt somewhat to all these different fields. And Scooby-Doo can exist in almost any universe.
True, he's been with the Globetrotters, Batman.
Kiss.
Oh my gosh, Kiss. Scooby-Doo and Kiss.
Mm-hmm. There's been like 3 of those.
They want to rock and roll.
But Scooby-Doo can adapt to almost any universe, and so because of that, he's a very usable character for Hanna-Barbera, in much the same way, if you can adapt to all these different universes as a referee, as a manager, as a wrestler, and even make your gimmicky stuff work in Deathland, there will always be a job for you in that regard.
Absolutely. And that's the important thing that we try to get over at the center is character, by being able to stress that there is a place for you out there, but you can't be so, this is me, this is only me. You have to find your place in the card on how to do it. You got to find how you're going to adapt. Like
how do you mold to fit into this new world?
Correct.
And I think part of that comes down to, you kind of touched on it very briefly earlier, but I kind of want to come back to it, talking about the things that we teach. You mentioned the core values. And I think we've got 3 very specific core values that we focus on at the center that really help people with being those extra tools in the toolbox or being that adaptable person.
And what are those 3 core values, sir?
They are, if we're playing the pronoun game, pronouns, brother, they are safety, discipline, and respect.
Absolutely.
You got to be safe in the ring. You got to be safe in your travels. You got to be safe in your lifestyle habits when you're training to be a wrestler or manager or whatever. You got to be disciplined in yourself, in your training regimen. You got to be disciplined in the ring. You have to have that respect of the business in the past. You got to have the respect for the guys coming up in the future. You have to respect yourself in order to really make something of this. I mean, those 3 core values, you'll see them time and time again, in the ring, out of the ring. And if you really, our success stories aren't people that can do the best moonsaults or the biggest power bombs. Our success stories are the people that hold these 3 values all day, every day.
At least they try their best. Absolutely.
They strive to, and that's what brings them to it.
So let's tie this up in a nice little bow, and I want to finish up talking about our training. And I want to talk about whenever people come in, whether it's wrestler, whether it's manager, whether it's referee, whenever you come in through our doors, people are, again, nervous. They're wanting to do the best that they can, but they are absolutely not sure if it's for them. I want to suggest to those people that if you are nervous, if you aren't sure that the wrestling business has a place for you, how are you going to find out if you don't come in and try?
Very much so. I mean, it's at the end of the day, that's kind of the crux of it. there used to be kind of the old adage to wrestling that, it's a very kind of sheltered, secret boys club almost, and unless you're the exact right type of person, you'll never be on the end, I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on the school is that we're able to find the different places for different people to be able to have a mark and have an impact in wrestling, to where, if you don't think it may be for you, you might be surprised. There might be an avenue for you that you didn't think about. You may have been so focused on, I'm going to be a wrestler, this, and then, I'm 5'3" and I'm 98 pounds. Is wrestler maybe for me? It still can be. It absolutely can be. You look at AEW and you've got guys like Marco Stunt that are absolutely killing it. You've got, Rey Mysterio broke that mold open 25 years ago and said,
Spike Dudley, pal.
But, and then at the same time, we can look and see what skills you bring to the table, and we can let you know if there's other avenues that you might be able to fill. I think one of the best lessons that I learned in my professional career was being able to adapt and take on other roles. You mentioned, I go out and I get work as a referee. That was something that kind of I fell into a little bit at one point, because I went to a place looking to wrestle. There wasn't a spot on the card, but there was nobody to ref. So they threw the shirt my way. I handled business, and because of how I handled business, I was invited back.
Which is awesome. We've had people come in and start off as a manager in their training and transition very quickly into wrestler. We've had people graduate our manager program and then graduate our referee program.
Double duties.
We've had people come in starting off as a referee and then move over to wrestler.
You might realize that taking another avenue might lead you to opportunities that the first way may not have shown you. There's plenty of opportunities that I've got as a referee that if I was so singularly focused on, I will only work at this place if I'm a wrestler, and I would have missed out on these great opportunities that I was able to learn from down the line, and I'm able to bring that back to the center so I can share that knowledge with everybody else. And had I been so stuck in my ways about this is what I do and nothing else, I would have missed out on those opportunities.
So, last thing I want to talk about before I totally finish up today is I want to talk about why it's important for people to come in general who have already been in the business for a while. Some of the things that we offer there. A lot of guys, when they have already been working in the business forever, they're figuring it out. They're out there and they're figuring it out on the road. And I agree that a lot of your best learning experiences are while you're out on the road and doing it in front of an audience. That is one of the best ways to learn, absolutely.
Field training.
Absolutely. But something that WWE has picked up on is that if they want their guys to really learn
be
something,
locked tight, be crisp, be on their A game,
you'll go down and you'll work on it in a training facility. I mean, a lot of their WWE matches, they go in and rehearse certain spots in a certain area. So a lot of the guys that are out there and going over these things and they're just not quite able to get it, I think that we're a school, and again, our flexibility. I've had a class where we've gone over moonsaults, we've gone over Canadian destroyers, we've gone over some of the real hokey dives to the outside, we've gone over several different what you would call high spots, moves off the top rope, high impact moves. We help guys learn this safely with our crash pads and footwork and things like that.
That way you're not learning it as you throw some poor soul in Kentucky.
Right. So we want to be there for the vets that way. If, like you said, certain workers are stagnant or certain workers are just not getting enough training in, I want to let them know that we're a place that you can come in and just get reps in.
I mean, that was one of the reasons we started the center up to begin with was, the vast majority of wrestlers, when do they get time to train? Like 2 hours before doors open for a show. They can get in, they can roll around, and they can maybe, work on a couple of things, but you can't, and you can't learn in that time. You can't retain anything 30 days apart between sessions. And so that was one of the reasons we opened up in the beginning was, hey, here's a spot you can drop in once a week and you can keep things sharp.
Right.
Keep things polished.
Absolutely. Even if you come in once every other week, it helps.
It
100%.
does. Just that regular, regimented training helps you stay on top of your A game. And then, you'll be in there not just with yourself and the coach kind of going over your things. You'll be in there with several other students at different levels of their game. And so you'll get to work with different body types. You'll get to work with different worker types. So you can try your idea out with different people to see how it works in different situations. And they may give you ideas that you hadn't thought of on your own to really make it that much better. And if you don't have that committee, I don't know if committee is the right word, almost kind of like a loose-knit family to kind of help you out with things, you're not able to, I mean, that's really where you get to excel, is when you've got that group and that family of people kind of pushing you up to strive and be better with it.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that I think makes our center great, and that's something that I want to extend out to everyone, is that we're a place about building bridges. We don't want to burn down bridges. We want to make connections, real connections. We don't want to just be the shake your hand, how's it going, brother, and walk out the door. We want to watch your matches, give you our thoughts about what really works, what really doesn't work. And at the end of the day, we're not going to yell at you for not taking our advice. It's your money.
Yeah.
If you want to take it or not, that's your decision.
At the end of the day, our goal is to help you get better, because you get better and you tell people, well, I worked on it down here with these guys, that helps us out. And that's, we get better because of the reputation people send out from working with us.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is what's hindered us, and word of mouth is what's helped us most. We've had people go out there and maybe a couple people feel like they have a bad taste in their mouth from some experiences that they've had with us. Maybe they feel like things just didn't work out perfectly, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own story, but listen to 90% of the reviews out there, you listen to 90% of the other people out there, and they're completely ecstatic with what's going on.
Yeah.
So we want to be the family. We want to be the place that you can go to, and we want to make sure that we are the place that you feel safest. We want to make sure that when you come in, you know you're not going to leave injured. You know you're not going to leave downtrodden. You're not going to feel worse about yourself. You're going to feel better.
Exactly. Again, it goes back to the core values. We want you to feel like you're safe while you're in our facility, not just physically while you're being lifted up for a stalling suplex, but we want you to be able to be comfortable with the people that you're in there with. We want you to be able to kind of let that guard down from the day a little. We want you to be relaxed. We want you to be at your best in that regard, because that's going to let you be able to train better as well. It falls back to, again, that discipline. We want to keep you sharp and crisp, because again, having those good, strong basics is what they look for. They don't look for your grandiose moves that you can do. They want to make sure that your headlock is great and that you take a great back bump, that kind of thing. So
that your shine makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
That you're getting over as a character during your shine, not just, hey, can you put together 2 arm drags and a drop kick and then follow it up with fire? Can you follow it up with real emotion? And then after that, are you putting the right sequence together to come back in and keep your shine going while not totally burying your heel?
Exactly. So many wrestlers, I think, have done their motions and have done their routines so often that they're stuck, and they may not even realize it, just going through those motions, and they're not putting that emotion back into it. And so, that's one of the things that we'll help you out with, is finding that natural emotion that should be in there and bringing that back out. And again, you kind of touched back on it again, that last core value. We want you to feel like you're respected in here. We don't want you to feel like we're talking down to you and telling you everything you do is wrong.
Right. There's workers who've been here 10, 15, 20, 30 years that come in, and I don't ever want them to feel like, oh, well, these people feel like they're better than me.
Exactly. We
can learn from them just as much as they can learn from us. We want to have the school that everyone can go to.
That's why we call it the Wrestling Center, and we don't call it the Cat Ninja Dojo or whatever, because it's not just strictly our philosophy and nothing but that. We learn by committee. We evolve through what we hear from other people. There's been a couple of times that I've had a wrestler from Arizona, because he was stopping in to wrestle elsewhere. He just stopped into the center, watched a little bit, gave us some insight and things that they do in the work that they do out there, and so everybody's learning just from that guy happening to stop in,
right,
because he knows the center exists, and that's what we want it to be. It's not you are learning the Catton method of wrestling or whatever. You are learning what we feel is the modern progression of professional wrestling and all of the different flavors that come from all the different places.
Oh, absolutely. Even though it was something we found, we knew that we had a lot to learn in the beginning too.
Absolutely.
And we knew that we had to grow as people and workers. And because of our growth, our students have gained so much. So much. So let's thank our audience for sticking with us on this little bit longer podcast, our second one.
Took them on a journey this time.
We're figuring out how this is going, the XWC stream here. We're figuring out our stream of consciousness, what works, what doesn't. If we've gone a little long, I apologize. If it's not long enough, let us know. We'd like to have some feedback on what we're saying, obviously. Comments, concerns. If you want to ask us any questions, we'd love to take questions. We'll have...
Primers are great.
Absolutely. If people want to chime in, we're working on how to get this live. So as soon as we start doing this live, obviously people will be able to comment. They'll be able to leave their messages. But let's bring it back to the center, and let's bring up this graphic. If people want to call and leave a comment about the stream, if people want to call for a tryout, $30 a tryout. In April, we have one date for a tryout. It will be April 18th. It will be at 2 p.m. April 18th. That's a Sunday.
Google put that in right now for you.
So Google you messed me up, man. You messed me up. So April 18th. It'll be a Sunday, 2 o'clock. We're doing a mass tryout. So if you're interested, make sure you're messaging us on Facebook. Make sure you're calling us, 555-0870-816 on the prefixer.
Double check that phone number real quick. You just gave them the Hollywood
phone number. Did I? Yeah, 816-535-0870. Did I do 555?
Yeah, you did. You gave me the old Hollywood number.
Oh my goodness, sorry. No. Okay, so
we just
816-535-0870. You can call us if you just want to talk wrestling. If you're a creative person and you want to get into the business, that's where the secondary manager training comes into play. If you're someone that wants to book a birthday party, we do birthday parties.
Those are a lot of fun. Definitely get in on that. And if kids are looking for birthday parties, if guys freshly out of college are looking for birthday parties, we can cater to what you're looking to do. So
absolutely,
bachelor party.
Indeed, bachelor parties are great too.
Nothing like a wrestling bachelor party, the XWC version. So again, make sure that you call this number. We're working on a kids camp in May. We are wanting to get 9 through 12-year-olds in on a class, and we want to get 13 through 16 in a class. Now you can join our main program at 16, but if you want to just get a little taste of what it's going to be like, we're working on that, and we'll get you a date as soon as possible. So, Adam, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you much.
I appreciate you joining me on this XWC stream. Next week, we're going to work on maybe watching a match together, breaking down some psychology on what we think, the XWC flavor. I'm not sure what match we're going to watch. We may have one. And so my producer over here is messing me up. So I want to thank everyone again for listening. Please make sure that you're commenting. Make sure that you're just giving us some feedback. If you hate it, that's fine. I'll get better eventually.
I was saying, let us know if it's horrible so we know what to fix at least.
Absolutely. And again, Jason, our producer, thank you for your time, and we will catch you next week.
Deuces.